Can I just name living sax players and tell you the things that I've gotten from them?
That record blew my mind, and I transcribed pretty much every solo on that record.
He was able to play this perfect way, and then he felt an artistic need to keep going.
You find something that you really enjoy, you love it. For example, at one point I really liked Michael Brecker.
I may play the exact same notes as someone else, but I hope that it sounds nothing like them.
Then I realized how much of Lester Young's playing was in Wayne Shorter's playing. And the funny thing that happened is the more traditional stuff I started playing, the more radical my playing became.
This is a little bit unusual. This is going to be an abnormal vlog in that it's going to be much longer, but I'm still calling it a vlog because why not? The topic here is, how do professionals think about their idols? And this is a question that comes from Jens, who's a member of my virtual studio. Let me read the question. This is more like an abstract question rather than a concrete practice-related question. I wonder how professional musicians think about their favorite players. So this might address Bob or any other professional musician here. A lot of pros are huge fans of other pros, like Chris Potter, for example. True. And wish they could be just half as good as him. Also true. Thinking he's a way better player than they are. Yeah, 3 for 3. But I think that all these musicians can transcribe and play anything that Chris Potter ever played, so basically they can play the same stuff. I know it's also about improvising the lines at the moment of performance, and that's what my question is about. What is it that your favorite players can do that you yourself cannot do? Great question. I always wondered about that because I can't yet notice much difference in skill on such a high level of playing. So there's a few facets to this question, and I understand where Jens is coming from. The first one is, just because I can transcribe another player, I mean, that means I have a certain amount of ability that I've reached with my instrument where I can copy that person or those people. And that surely is a skill. But it's a very long way away from having those ideas, being the generator of those ideas. So when I'm transcribing a Michael Brecker, a Branford Marsalis, a Coleman Hawkins, a Charlie Parker, a Sonny Rollins, a Joshua Redman, a Chris Potter, a Pat Metheny, Johnny Griffin, Sonny Stitt, Stan Getz, Hank Mobley, it's a very long list. But when I'm transcribing any one of those people, it's because something they've done has caught my ear, it's caught my attention, and it's resonated with me in a way that has made me think, ooh, I like that. What is that? I would like to be able to play that. I would like to be able to have that idea. And that's what generally leads me to jump into the process of trying to transcribe whatever the heck it was they were doing so that I can reverse engineer it and figure it out for myself. It doesn't always mean that I'm looking for a lick that I can copy and paste to other places. In fact, most of the time, that's not the case. It's more about, what's the context? I'm interested in what's happening rhythmically, harmonically, melodically, like all these things. There's something happening there that made my radar go up, and that's telling me that's part of something I'd like to be able to do. As much as possible, I want to get inside that player's mind. Like I can't really, but if, as close as I can, I want to try to understand where they might have been coming from at that moment in that solo. And the more people I absorb ideas from, and the more ideas I absorb and get under my fingers and turn around in my head and memorize and twist around and make my own, the deeper my reservoir of choices becomes as an improviser. There's a masterclass on YouTube given by the saxophonist Joel Frahm. I'll link to the full thing below, but I just wanted to show this one little clip that I really enjoyed where he's talking about one of the things he gets out of transcribing other artists.
Pretty much what I did was transcribe Charlie Parker solos, and a little bit of Sonny Rollins too, I would say, some Freddie Hubbard solos, some different things. So I was transcribing a lot, and I was memorizing all this stuff. And I would sit in my room. My parents got worried about me at a certain point because they I would sit in my room and just like obsessively play bird lines in 12 keys for hours on end. And that's basically how I learned my vocabulary was just because I fell so in love with those shapes and hearing my favorite players of the day play those solos and make those harmonies and make those beautiful shapes on the horn. And there was something about it that I can't exactly describe, but there was something about falling in love with the geometry of jazz, falling in love with the shape of those lines,
The geometry of jazz. Isn't that cool? I've never heard it put that way before, but it makes so much sense. Just how these things feel as shapes once you get them under your fingers. So on to the second part of this question. What is it that your favorite players can do that you yourself cannot do? Oh boy, I mean, this would be an hour long just for me to answer this if I really went into it. But let me go surface level here. Sticking with the Chris Potter thing. Since I was a teenager and first discovered him, he's always been somebody that has just continued to blow my mind as his ideas just, it's like it's a never-ending stream of ideas, but not like disconnected ones. Whatever he's doing, there always seems to be a through line, like a melodic, cohesive, architectural something that he comes up with when he's playing, that he anchors his soloing around, and that's just always fascinated me. He's not somebody that just spits out a bunch of preconceived patterns and licks. It's always seems so organic, but the time feel, the delivery of the information. I would say the same thing about all of the players that I really admire from, I mean, I won't list them all again, but Sonny Stitt and Stan Getz and Joshua Redman and Michael Brecker and Pat Metheny and Branford Marsalis, like it's always the time feel. Like here's one of my favorite clips of Branford playing with Sting. I just love this solo on Roxanne is incredible. It still floors me to this day. I mean, the bounce in that line, the way that like, and the choices that he makes in there are things I'm still thinking about like 10 years after hearing it. The way that Josh like mixes blues and bebop together has always fascinated me. He's always had this like, it's seemingly effortless delivery, and it just, everything just feels so darn good. Stan Getz, I mean, there's, again, time feel almost always floats to the top. The time feel and their sound, those are the things that float to the top for me more than anything else of the people that I admire. And so what is it that they can do that I cannot? Well, those are the things that I'm always working on, because I don't want to say that I don't feel that I can do them, but I just never feel like I can do them at the level that I'd like to be able to, and probably I never will. So that's actually good, right? That keeps the whole process, the whole journey exciting and worthwhile. Initially, I was just gonna do this like a regular vlog and answer the question, but in the process of answering these questions, I realized I was sitting on a bunch of footage from some really fantastic artists talking about basically this same subject. Now, for the past 4 years, and this year will be the 5th, I've co-run a summer retreat for saxophonists. Ta-da, here's the t-shirt. The inside, outside retreat for saxophonists. It will be again this August 6th through 11th, 2019. We've had some fantastic guests in the past, Joshua Redman, Chris Potter, Branford Marsalis, and I realized that some of their master classes and their discussions kind of got into this subject. So I wanted to share some of that material with you. I also have some other clips of discussions I've had with Ben Wendel and Myron Walden, as well as a few things that I've found on the YouTubes that are fantastic, and I'll link to anything that's available out there that I've grabbed this stuff below. So make sure you check out the descriptions or the links in the description below. But here we go. Here's Josh talking about one of his big heroes, Sonny Rollins, specifically the first time you heard Sonny Rollins.
Like everyone has these moments. I think most people have these moments of epiphany, with music. Like it's just like something unlocks, And for me, like hearing that, it was like all of a sudden I understood, okay, like you can be completely off the cuff, completely spontaneous, in the moment, unscripted, playing, freewheeling, playing what you feel at the moment that you feel it, completely unplanned, and at the same time be completely like logical and structured and organized and tell the story at the same time, like that you can be completely in the moment and of the moment, and at the same time have this organic unity to what you're playing, so that you're not just playing these random licks or phrases, that you're actually like telling the story. Hearing Sonny Rollins, that record was like, okay, jazz improvisation is telling us, it's storytelling. That record blew my mind, and I transcribed pretty much every solo on that record, I think, except for, I don't think I transcribed I think he plays You Don't Know What Love Is, and that. I don't think I transcribed that. Ballads are hard to transcribe.
I feel the same way. Ballads are hard to transcribe. One of the things I've asked our guest artists to do at the retreat is play some music for everybody that was very important to them in their early years when they were developing. And it was interesting, not only did Josh choose Sonny Rollins, but Chris Potter chose a Sonny Rollins track to play for us, but it happened to be from a very different part of time in Sonny's development. So Josh was talking about the album Saxophone Colossus and what he got from that. And Chris was talking about an album called Sonny, I think it's called Sonny on Impulse, specifically the track Three Little Words. And it kind of blew my mind to hear this because it made so much sense in what I hear that they both got from Sonny in the different time periods.
There's a certain kind of emotional vulnerability to his playing, especially like around this time, because this was after, the late 50s, Saxophone Colossus. I mean, it's just perfect sound, perfect time, perfect everything. And then he really went on a search, I mean, he took a year off, he was practicing on the bridge. He was able to play this perfect way. And then he felt an artistic need to keep going. So for me, there's something very, very compelling about this period of time in Sonny's playing that doesn't get quite as much attention, I think, as some of the earlier stuff. But for me, the emotional thing and the, just the freedom of phrasing and form, Well, you know what? I'm going to stop talking about it because I want to hear it. He's dealing with the form, he's playing the changes, but going outside them. He's playing so much saxophone, but he's also it's not patterny at all. I mean, it's like as anti-patterny as it could possibly be. It's just free-flowing thought. He's just telling a story, and it really is. It's like he's talking. There's no barrier between his thoughts and the horn, and it's unbelievable. I mean, that really got me from the first time I heard it. Also, you think he grew up listening to Coleman Hawkins, obviously idolized Charlie Parker, internalized that language to an incredible degree. But that's a whole other way of playing. That's a whole other approach. And I mean, no doubt he was influenced by Ornette and by Train, obviously. I think it was a big challenge to him, the sheer force of Train's playing. And he was like, okay, I'm going to go a different way. I mean, Train couldn't have done that. That was not his focus of, what he was working on. Sonny really just has a unique, just that melodic sense and that rhythmic sense and the phrasing, and so that's what I would copy. And I'd want to get the notes, but I mean, let's see if I can, because I actually don't remember ever really learning. I just listened to it a bunch. Okay, there's so much meaning in it. He's not landing on one. Just pay attention to where he's putting it all rhythmically and exactly how he's phrasing it. And it's it gives it such a specific meaning, and it's all about the meaning. He has the notes so internalized, that's not even an issue, So it's exactly where he chooses to land rhythmically, where to start, exactly how he hits every note, because there's such a wide range of different kinds of attack in his playing too, and different kind of sonic textures. I mean, the whole sound of the thing is really kind of strange. I mean, I always it's like he's got his mouth full of marshmallows or something in a certain way, but it's swinging so. So this is the phrase I was trying to play. He's clearly resolving it, but he kind of lands on beat 4 or something. It's the kind of thing anything else in music. You can sit and analyze it, but clearly he wasn't. He was grabbing what he heard.
How cool was that, right? That was a night I will always remember. And hearing Chris make those connections between what he got from Sonny Rollins and how it showed up in his playing was just incredible. Here's a clip of Mark Turner in conversation with David Schroeder from NYU. Now, the full thing is available on YouTube. I'm just borrowing this one little part where he's talking specifically about one of his major influences, Warne Marsh, and what it was he got from Warne, and especially like through the process of transcription.
Warne Marsh, for instance, what was it? What would you say is the essence of his music and his process that you've taken for your own?
Initially, I was attracted to him because I was trying to figure out what I'm still trying to figure it out, but at that point I was maybe a little bit more in the fore, is that I was trying to figure out how to improvise, Okay, you have some vocabulary and language, what are you going to do with it? So I was trying to figure out what musicians felt like they were basically using what they had and kind of flying on the seat of their pants, trying to make things happen without actually falling over, maybe like riding on the crest of the wave or whatever it is, Warne Marsh was one of those, and I was attracted to him also because he did it without a whole lot of drama. It's basically content, and I was interested in how is he able to use content, placement, sound, and content meaning melodies, the way he plays the harmony, where he places the notes, how he plays with the rhythm section, to create a sense of he's always on the edge. To me, listening to him, I feel my hair is standing on end because it sounds like he's always almost about to fall over, but it never quite happens. So I wanted to know what that was, and so that's the main thing, about how he processes information, and how he's able to. He almost never repeats himself. If you transcribe enough solos, you'll see everyone has something that they do, a certain language that they have. And some musicians, you can find more repetition in their language. This is not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. But with him, very, very little. So I was looking for that. How is he able to take language, have it still sound familiar, and not repeat himself, and still keep it interesting, rational, forward-moving, and so on and so forth.
Years ago, I sat down with Ben Wendel to do a little interview, and one of the things I asked him was, who are some of your living influences? We try to just limit the scope to players who are, still with us today.
Can I just name living sax players and tell you the things that I've gotten from them?
I love it.
Because that's for me, like when peers, I really feel like that a lot of the time. Like there'll be just certain elements about how they play or their musicality where I'll just feel like that's so deep,
Right.
like I want to try and capture that or just somehow like soak up some of that.
Yeah.
For example, like Dana Stevens, like his sound is really beautiful and big and wide. And just something about the way he plays is very childlike, and I really love it. So just like, I think of him that way.
Yeah.
Chris Cheek, I love his sound. He has like this just incredibly buttery sound with this really unique, beautiful vibrato that I think is so interesting how he plays with intonation. Whether it's deliberate or not, I don't know. I did some big band gigs recently where he was on Barry, like right next to me, and I was just like, wow. And just even on Barry, he sounds like Chris Cheek, Wow. Chris Potter, of course, just his supreme, unmatchable technique, Sure, why not? Yeah. Right. And his time, his time is so unbelievably accurate in a good way, you know. Mark Turner, of course, I love his sound too, and obviously I love him and Rosenwinkel. I got to stay with saxophone players. Pre-Turner, I always think of Rick Margitza as actually coming from that school too, maybe a little earlier, in the sense that like he was really doing a lot of cool arpeggiation, spelling out of the chords type stuff that I always really dug. I remember hearing him on a Maria Schneider album and transcribing one of his solos for that reason. Obviously Joshua Redman, I remember really always loving that first album he did with Higgins and Hayden and Matheny and Lovano. Well, I gotta ask you, because I've always wondered this about other people. To me, everything I do, it seems like so obvious, like what my influences are. I feel like when I'm saying who are my influences, I'm revealing how the sausage is made.
Yeah. And then there was a time I sat down with Myron Walden, and during that conversation, this topic came up.
I think it's important as an instrumentalist to try to learn as much information as possible and to master one's craft. And so I kind of had people around me that were monster musicians, whether it was Josh Redman or Mark Turner, or, and when I was younger, Vincent Herring took me under his tutelage, Jesse Davis, Charles Davis, Barry Harris. So all these individuals, they kind of had a world of information, and so I wanted to kind of take it all in. But I could never remember saying, I want to sound like that, and I'm going to set out to sound like this guy or that guy. So even, my biggest thing is probably whatever you play, make it your own. Play it like it's the last thing you're going to play. Play it like that's all you know. I may play the exact same notes as someone else or learn the same cliche or whatever have you. But I hope that if and I play it and when I play it, that it sounds nothing like them. It has something that's uniquely me.
I like that. It's similar to what I was saying at the beginning, where what makes you you is your unique set of influences, and that's bound to be different from anybody else. So if you've ever worried that if you transcribe other people, you'll sound like them and not yourself, don't worry about that. It's not going to happen. Here's Michael Brecker.
As far as the saxophone, we're all sort of constructed differently. Nobody ever sounds exactly like anybody else. Just tone-wise, it's a remarkable instrument on that level, because nobody ever sounds exactly like anyone else. You can hear influences. Obviously, in me, you can hear tremendous Coltrane, Joe Henderson influence, Sonny Rollins. Those influences are tremendously there. Stanley Tarantine. There's a Johnny Griffin influence there. There's a George Coleman influence. And just to name a few. There's so many. Steve Grossman, Bob Berg, Jerry Bergonzi. Of what used to be the younger players. Now there's younger guys. That I still listen to.
And finally, here's Branford Marsalis, our special guest at last year's Inside Outside retreat, talking about his early influences and the importance of working your way backwards in the timeline.
The first guy I started listening to when I was 16, the records I heard were Clifford Brown, Max Roach Quintet. One's called On Basin Street, and the other one is called whatever it's called, I don't remember. We went and my brother was practicing, so I heard those records. I didn't want to play jazz, so it didn't really do anything for me, but the sound of it gets in your head. And the one thing I did like was this compilation of Lester Young sides that was called Lester Swings. It's a double record set. So I stole that from my dad and took it to school with me. And when I got to Berkeley, that was the first time that I heard Wayne Shorter playing with Miles Davis, because my roommate was Marvin Smitty Smith, the drummer. And he had these Wayne Shorter records these Miles Davis records my dad didn't have. My dad kind of stopped with Coltrane. My dad's a post-bopper. He just really wasn't into it. That was his thing. So it's the first time I heard Nefertiti and Miles Smiles and Theater Kilimanjaro, and I just heard Wayne. I knew Wayne Shorter as the guy with Weather Report. I was a big Wayne Shorter fan, but I only knew him from Weather Report. And I learned how to imitate him on soprano. He didn't play a lot of tenor with the band, except in the early years, and I learned that. So I asked me, who's that sax player? He said, Wayne Shorter. I said, man, there's a guy I listen to that plays with Weather Report. His name's Wayne Shorter too. He goes, man, it's the same guy. I said, no, it's not. I didn't know. I didn't know Herbie Hancock played with him. I knew him from Headhunters. So it's got this revelation. And the more I listened to that, I said, yeah, I never did like jazz, but this, I can play this kind of jazz. This I'm into. This stimulates me. So we started trying to play that. It worked to a degree, went and kind of shot out there and everybody was talking about it. So we had the youth thing going, but the music wasn't that good. Art Blakey's the guy that said, well, if you really want to play that modern stuff, you're going to have to really learn the stuff that you don't like. Because Wayne Shorter did not just show up playing that way. He learned how to play that way. And I just, I don't want to listen to that other stuff. But I finally just said, okay, fine. If I help me play like Wayne, I'll start listening to that other stuff. And I started listening to Lester Young and Sidney Bechet. And then that just, eventually, when I finally heard it, it blew my mind. So then I wasn't even thinking about Wayne Shorter anymore. Man, I got to learn how to play like Lester. Because then I realized how much of Lester Young's playing was in Wayne Shorter's playing. And this other guy named Warne Marsh, who was playing with Tristano. Like, those were Wayne's three guys, with Coltrane, Warne Marsh, and Lester Young. So those were the early years, and then from there I just said, why am I running from this? So I started buying all the early Ellington, went and started listening to Louis Armstrong, so I picked that up, and I started listening to Sidney Bechet. And the funny thing that happened is the more traditional stuff I started playing, the more radical my playing became. I don't have a thesis for why. I just know that happened. Like, the more old stuff I got in there, I was able to just go in places, you know. And some of my colleagues in New York were like, "Yeah, man, what you been doing, man? What you been checking out?" I said, "Old records." And they're like, no, what's that other stuff you doing? I said, "Man, it's coming from the old records. I don't know why." So I know it works. I don't know why. I don't have an explanation for that.
So I think the common thread amongst all of these different players is everybody's searching for what's going on behind the scenes, sort of the blueprint, rather than just the surface level material. And that's what really can lead you to your own insights and kind of exciting discoveries. So if you're interested in the retreat that some of these clips are from, check out the website insideoutsideretreat.com. I guess this way, insideoutsideretreat.com. It will be August 6th through 11th. This coming summer, 2019. It's a lot of fun. This will be our 5th year. And other than that, stay tuned for the next vlog. It will be much shorter.
Thank you.